We're just waiting. Give me another 20 seconds and everyone will join the room again. All right. Looks like everyone's back. Great. So I only have 2 clicks on the thumbs up. So that makes me think only 2 people did it. So did anyone else? Oh, there we go. All right. Usually the case is I have to remind just to get a few more. So 5. So I got 5 completions. All right. What was, I guess, the most difficult thing then? Some of you didn't complete it. I get it. I'm just curious, what was the biggest challenge here?
I got hung up on some of the instructions. I knew we were supposed to create an array, and so we did that, but I wasn't sure what you wanted in the array. So we just kind of made stuff up.
Oh, yeah. That was it. It was just kind of make up to do things, really.
Oh, and then I made the name have all that, and I kind of fudged the content in later after I did that, because you had classes of names, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize you want to put the content inside there as well.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. What I'm trying to do, and I want to give, when I give the instructions, I kind of want to give details, but I don't want to give you every last, like, do the thing, put it right here in the exact spot. I don't mean to be too vague with the instructions. So once again, if I go back, that may be something that I would edit. But it's I'm sorry? Oh, I thought somebody was, yeah. So if that was one of them, I get it. Thanks, Gustavo. Did anyone else have any other specifics? Anything else that was challenging to it? Okay. All right. So here's a solution. And this is Steven's solution. And, you know, just kind of following the pattern of the things that I do. And I get this a lot in classes. There were times when I teach feud classes in New York and I create something and I have it on the screen. And I'm like, do this thing with this thing. I do this color switcher to-do list all the time with different classes. And so what I want to always convey is, like, follow the things that I'm doing, like as to the T as possible until you hit the, you know, that one where you have to choose a different thing to put the content in. But if we started with this, we'd have created this, right? And that's how I had created it, right? There's another way to do this, though, too. What I want to point out here, there's another way that we could have done this, where I could have gotten rid of this, taken export default, put it right here, and we could have also done that. That's another way of exporting, okay? So I know some might have been playing around with that. That's a secondary way of doing it. The fact that I did it this way, so, you know, this way, try doing it that way first just to make sure it works. You know, we know that works. There's no guessing. I'd rather you, like, try to figure out the harder things versus the things maybe we didn't cover, but I kind of mentioned. So that's the export. Now, I'm going to go to index. Index, we import it. That was kind of the second thing we did. We imported it. And then we passed it, right? Call it list items. Once again, there's going to be times I'm not going to tell you what to call it. I'll just kind of leave it up to you. Do you know what do you feel like calling it? Because then I'll know that when you go to app and you try to access it, you understand the two. You called it this, and you know to access it like that, versus me kind of like, call it this thing, and then in it access it like this thing, right? I mean, at the beginning, having those instructions will definitely help more, but I also want to kind of see, have you grasped the content, the two, passing the prop and giving it a name and accessing it based on its name. So here we sent it in as list items. That's what we passed it. So we loop over it. Now we had a return. Did anyone have issues with this, returning it like this? That might have been an issue for some. Okay. One thing that I didn't cover in the to-do list, so if I go back to, I'm sorry, the color switcher, is when I did it in the color switcher, I did it like this. I just did it all on one line because it really only had one thing. I'm only outputting one thing. But if you're going to have lots of content to output, then you're really going to put them in curly braces. I'm sorry, in parens. And here, it just makes it more organized. Now, this return statement here looks really similar to this return statement. So you might have been able to associate the two and say, wait, let me take a look at this return and see how this return was, because it's doing the same kind of call, and now there's just more content for it, right? There's more stuff, so maybe I have to wrap it up. Did it work if I remove this? Would that work? Or is that gonna scream? Right? It's screaming. It's like, can't do that.
Doesn't scream if you put the first line on the same line as the return. So if you do return space div, it doesn't scream, which we did figure out.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. What I would suggest, though, in the future is kind of put them on. This is how you're going to see it mostly written, the parens, because it just seems odd to like have it on one line and then nest the others. Just a little weird. All right, cool. And then we had that, and then you were able to take the content, D being the content, and D being at that time the actual text that you typed in, right? And then just finding where it would go. So if I look through I would have seen the text here, and I'm like, all right, the class name was that before, so maybe if I just swap it and I put it there, it'll be the thing. And so we got it. All right? Cool.
Joe, if you were to pass in an array of objects, would you be able to reference it by d.property inside each one?
Yeah. It would be the same thing. It's no different than us accessing props here. Like props is an object, and we're grabbing a key of list items that returns back an array. And for the most part, and think about it, like more advanced pieces of data are going to be objects. They're going to be objects. They're not going to be simple strings of text. Even our to-do list items here themselves may at some point in time want to keep track of themselves. Like, have I been completed? Like, I want to know, as a list item, I actually want to know if I've been completed. We may have something later on where we have something like, I don't know, list item is equal to, I'm just going to create one. But say we created one list item, it may be, I don't know, the item, and then, do this. And then we also might say like completed, false by default, right? Maybe date created, right? Created, and then you can put, new date, something like that. And so the actual elements themselves eventually are going to get more complicated. And that's like the next step. You'll be doing that. Well, you'll be mapping through things that have nested the keys, then have objects themselves, and those objects have arrays inside them, and it gets kind of convoluted trying to find the path to the thing. You can get kind of crazy. Awesome. Sweet. Any other questions? All right. So I'm going to say it's 9:14. And we do have a few more things. So I'm going to give us a 5-minute break. I'm just going to cut a little short only because we're running out of time. And I have 2 more things I want to cover. 5-minute break. Why don't we come back at 9:20 and we'll jump into the next topic. Okay? Sweet. All right.
As less as possible?
Because when we use Create React App, which is kind of what this tool is doing also, is it transpiles the code from ES6 to ES5. And in that process, it will find the places it needs to insert the semicolon.
Okay.
And so we don't really have to do that anymore. And there's this kind of growing trend of like, I almost never use semicolons anymore. I'm always working in React anyway, or if I'm working on a Node and Express server, I don't know, that's never going to be transpiled. So, and I never have conflicts. So I got so used to not using them anymore. And I've already read a lot of articles that have just said like, there's that debate between just, proper syntax, always having it there, and just like, you don't really need it. The thing's going to do it for you. So why waste your time forcing yourself to use a semicolon, right? If we needed it, then sure, but you don't need it. And later on, when we run a build on something where React says, oh, I'm going to take all the code, compile it all into an HTML file, and since importing JavaScript and CS files, you'll see it'll remove all of the spaces and just like put all the code line by line right next to each other, kind of like a min file, a JavaScript min file. And when you do a min file, right, you remove all the white spaces, and everything is on just consecutive lines, and semicolons there are key. They're critical. Without the semicolons, your code will break.
Got it. Thank you.
No worries. Pause recording. All right, good. So now we're back. We are going to go into nesting components, nesting the components. So what I want to do here, my little code along of nesting components, I'm going to still be using the same color switcher. Same color switcher. We're going to use it until we get completely bored of it and we want something else and challenging, but it'll serve its purpose in the meantime. So I want to create additional components, a form component, a color list component, and a color list item component. I want additional things to create. Yeah, I also want to point out, Abdul just created an RCT 910 questions Slack channel. So if you do have questions, you can, post them there also, concerns about anything. We can always address those. So I'm going to go back to my color switcher app here. Boop, here's my demo, right? So I want to create a component. So I'm going to go to the components folder and I'm going to say form, all right? I'm going to create a color list. Oh, .js. Forgot the .js on this thing. All right, rename .js. Rename .js and a color list item, right? Item.js. Okay, so I'm going to create these, and for the intent of like moving content into them. Now we know we have to import, so I can just go here and say I got to import this thing. I have to do it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Like I don't want to have to type those things out. It's really tedious. So I'm going to go back to say color list, and I'm going to say I'm going to create. Let's do this. Const color list is equal to, right, props, because we know we're going to be passing down something at some point in time. Fat arrow, and well, we know we need to render something, right? We need a render in here, so it has to render. Oh, I'm not render, return. Renders later. And you can't just return nothing, so I could put a placeholder here of at least a div, just to have something, otherwise it's gonna kind of error. And then we know we need to export, right? Export default, right? Color list, right? That's our structure, right? Now I can take this structure, now that I have this, I can go here to color list item and do the same thing. Like I'm not looking to like type everything out if I don't have to. Color list, item, color list, item, item, and then form, right? This is just the form. Form. Okay, so now I have my components. The components are going to be rendered in app. And the fact that they're going to be rendered in app, because that's where they belong, right? They're here. Here's my form. Here's my color list. And here are my color list items. I'm going to import those things. So I'm going to import the color list from color list. Okay. Once again, I can copy this one because it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to be color list item from color list item, right? And then, once again, I could do the same thing and then just say form. Form from form. Okay. And now I have my 3 components. Now, obviously, they're defined but never used. And now I want to do something with them, right? Well, I know my form is right here. Here's my form. So what if I took all the content from my form, right? If I took all the content from here, I'm just going to move this down. We'll see the elements disappear. Cut it. My form's gone. I go to form and I paste it right in here. Okay, I'm just going to tab these over. Make this look nice. All right, here's my form. And I want to use my form in app. All I have to do is say form. And it's back. So what React is doing is it's saying like, hey, this is a component and a component's a function. And this, I suppose, is our way of calling the function, right? I mean, when you call a function, it's, you know, name of the function, parens, and that's what activates it. When you do it this way, it calls the function and asks it to return its JSX. Whatever JSX you have, return it to me, okay? So nesting these components here, if we wanted to add a comment in JSX also, I'll just add a quick comment here. We would do it, okay, that's a comment. So the stars, the / and stars are normal like multi-line comments in JavaScript, but we need to precede them and end them with curly braces because it's JavaScript, right? JavaScript and JSX always preceded and ended by those. So form is rendered, right? Whatever it had is now on the screen. And so I could do the same thing with the UL, right? I mean, the UL has this thing, so that might be an issue right now, right? Color array might be a problem. It's an array of colors. So I'm going to go and I'm going to get rid of this real quick because it'll error out. Actually, you know what? Let's let it error out. I'm going to cut this and put it in color list. And color list will error out when I import it. So I'm going to go back to app. Right here, color list. Oh, yeah, now it's like, whoa, you can't do this thing. I mean, it's taking me to like another error. Like that's not the error I think, because I know that I have color list and color list is here and it's exporting color list. So this works. So I'm going to kind of get rid of this and let's see. Ooh, what happened? Did I mistype something here? Color list.
So at the top, you imported colors list.
Oh, that's it. And I'm going to get rid of colors list items here, right? Because that's the same thing. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Awesome. I'm going to go back to the color list and I'll is it going to let me re-add it? Now it's going to error out. I mean, it's error out as well, right? Color list, color list. If I go back to app, these things are back to normal, right? They're what they should be. So color list is like, I don't know what to do with this thing. You're asking me to like render a thing and I'll get rid of it. And we're back to normal, right? Put it back, screws us up. So what we need to do is pass in something, right? We need to pass in something that could be this thing. So I'm gonna go back to app and say, and for maybe the time being, can I comment that out? Yeah, so I can comment that out. In app, how would I get this colors array, how would I pass it down to this? How would I do that?
You pass it as props dot, or you pass it as the object you have it before as a property.
Correct, yeah. So I'm gonna give it a name of what I want, and I'm gonna say colors array. Now, I'm giving it the same name, right? This is the name of the colors array. That's what I'm passing in, and I'm giving it a new name. This is the array of things, and I'm calling it the same thing because it is the same thing. I don't really want to keep, a lot of the times when we do this, the first thing students are like, you're giving them the same name, I'm confused. Trust me, if it is the same thing, it should be the same name. Calling them different names is only going to confuse you later on when something got passed down 3 components and you're like, you changed the name every step of the way, and now you're just confused what is what. So I pass it down as colors array. If I go to color list item, how do I use it? How am I going to reference it here? If I go back, it's this. How do I execute it here? Anybody?
It's props.colors array.
Right, yeah, props. And now we're back in action, right? Easy enough. We got props.colors array. It's working. Now, we also have color list item, right? And this was just, as of right now, just the div, and we know that. If I go back to app and I say, hey, app, here's your colors array. Maybe the color list should be the one that renders this array of colors. Maybe you shouldn't be doing it here. I mean, your app, you got a lot of stuff to do. Maybe you shouldn't be doing this at all. This, to me, should be done in the colors list. So I don't necessarily want to run this up here. I want to move this into the color list. I want the color list to kind of be responsible for this. So I am going to still go back to this. Okay, I'm going to move this back. I want this to be run here, and we are passing it. This is happening. I'm going to go back to the app, and now I have to, and I'm passing this as colors array, but now I have to change this to be props.colors array, right? What just happened? Oh, because this is erroring out. This doesn't exist anymore. Okay? Well, I want the color list. The color list is really the thing responsible for rendering the individual list items. So it only makes sense that that should be the thing that is past the array, and it should be responsible for handling those items, right? Easy enough. So if we do that, if I pass it here, and I'm in color list, I'm able to do this. Now, I don't want to just create LIs. I really want there to be a color list item. I want, at the most lowest level, this thing to be an actual component, right? If it's a component, then I know that in color list, we would have to render at least an LI, right? The LI would at least need a class name, and that class name would need to be equal to something, whatever passed in, props.name. Okay? It has to be something. Or I'm going to change this to be prop.color, because that's probably what it is, right? The class is the color. Okay? So if I go to color list now, I could import color list item from color list item. Now I have access to it. Now all I have to do is change this to be color list item. All right, I'm going to get rid of this. It's kind of a self-closing thing. And this class name of D, I don't really assign the class name here anymore, right? I give it a key or a property name of color, right? Do I have multiple? Oh, is it this? See over here? There we go. So now I'm giving it a key of color or a prop of color, because the color list item is taking in a color prop that has a key of color. All right? And so now I've nested inside of app. Just think, inside of app, there's a form component and a color list component, right? And we're passing in the array. We go to color list. The color list is nesting another component, a color list item component. Okay? And it's rendering 4 of those, right? And then it renders 4 of those within this. Okay? So a lot of the times when I do this, and I go to, let me just pull this up real quick. I go to, when I try to visualize what's really happening here, I also try to focus in on the Google Forms, Google Drawings. Here we go. All right. So I have Google Drawings here. And if I insert a shape, yeah. All right. Boom. Okay. I'm going to just copy this. Copy, paste, paste, paste. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. This becomes our color or our app. Let me just put our app, right? I think that's just our app. And then this is our color list. And then this is one of many color list items. Okay, make it bigger. Okay, now we know that we have multiple ones of these. So I would do this and do color list item. And this is gonna be more relevant later on too when we start passing things down. Right now it's just, it looks like this architecture is important. Data passes down, okay? And so this passes things down to this, and this passes things down to that. It renders this one. App also renders form, okay? And this is important because later on, when we start passing props down, and we start defining which ones have state, and we have to lift state up all the way back up, well, this architecture is going to help us understand what's doing what, okay? And I'll show next week, I'll show a better diagram that I put together for this particular app. We're just kind of doing this one on the fly. So, how are you feeling about the nested components? Does it make sense? I mean, you did it with the pre-work, right? Pre-work, you did it. You did it with the Dino blog thing, right? Okay, because now it's your turn, right? Your turn's up. Nesting components. All right. So what you're going to do with your solution that you had, and did I slack out the solution? I think I had slacked out the solution, right? Working with props. Okay. So let me slack out the previous solution in case you didn't get it, in case you weren't able to complete it or you had some issues with it, passing prompts. I'm going to put the solutions here too. So wherever the starter code was, I now naming it starter code and solution code. So, okay. If you had issues, this was the solution code for the previous one, okay? So what I want you to do for nesting components is do the same thing. Create a folder called components, which we already have, so you don't have to do that. Inside there, create a form and to-do list, and inside, cut the appropriate content out, okay? Render the to-do list item. Do, once again, kind of what we just did. You're just repeating the process. I want to make sure that what we've done, you're able to kind of redo, okay? So I'll put us into breakout rooms, and let's breakout rooms. So Demola, how much time you think? How much time? What do you think? What's your best guess on this? You don't know, I can't hear you.
Yeah, probably 15 minutes.
15 minutes, I like it. Because that's exactly what you're getting. 15 minutes. All right. I'm gonna mix up.
So I got a quick question before we start.
Okay, yeah.
So I noticed that you didn't pass the key over to the list item, and I'm wondering if that's because like does the list item still need the key?
When you create the component, like when the component itself is rendered, the key is located in the map. It's part of the map because remember when we console logged, when we console logged, we saw that the key was part of this. So if I go here and I console log colors array, right? Can I not do this? Colors array. Oh, console. Right. The key is created here during the map. It belongs to the item
Okay.
itself, so we don't need to pass it down because it's part of the thing now.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. Cool. So let me. Stefan. Boop, boop. Okay. And I'm going to open them up. Here we go. Boom. Open all the rooms. And click on the thumbs up and our channel when you're done. All right. So let's see. I'm going to wait just another 30 seconds for everyone to get back in. How'd you feel about the lab, Connor?
No, I did horribly.
Okay.
So bad.
Well,
Abner crushed it though.
okay.
I think you got to go back to the app.js.
All right. So I'm just going to leave it open. If you completed it, click on the thumbs up. If you did not, once again, I'm using these labs also to kind of gauge, you know, either the pace of the class, what I'm doing. Is it too much, too quick, too fast? And at any point in time in the feedback, you can tell me that. I come from the SEI class during the day, and that is just like, got to do the thing. Watch me do the thing. Your turn to do the thing. And it's really at a very rapid pace. We throw so much at the students so quickly that they're always overwhelmed. And I know taking it into this class is not always the best approach because, you know, you're working full time. You want to learn. You don't want to be like completely overburdened at 10 o'clock at night. Your brains are tired. So I'll go over the solution. I'll share the solution also. I think, Stephen, when I had copied over your solution and I showed it at work, but there were a few things in it that I thought were off, but I didn't see it till afterwards. So if you were using that other solution, you might have come across, you even yourself might have come across it like something. So I'll just go back to follow the process of what we did, right? I created a form, a to-do list, and a to-do list item components, right? Trying to follow the same pattern, right? Color list item. Form was the same thing. Then I said, you know, the easiest thing is after I did that, I copied this, import React, put it into both of them, created the component name, output a div, and then just copied and pasted those into the components. And then I exported and I just changed the name. So I just try to create the structure as quickly as possible to get myself going. Then the next thing that I would have done is I took the form content from here. So whatever the form content was, I took it out of there. And the form content was, obviously inside form now, is just this. Here's the form. So I really went into here and I took the create new, and actually this shouldn't be in here. This should.
Joe?
Yeah.
Are you supposed to be sharing your screen right now? We can't see anything.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That helps, right? All right. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Now I can see it. Let me move this down here. All right. So I cut out the form from here, the form content, and I put it inside of here. And I just cut the form itself. It was inside of another div, but I left the div structure in the app. And so I just put it in here. I didn't really need to pass this thing any props. So I really, in essence, don't need props right now. I will, but I don't right now. So I'm just passing it that, and then I went back to app, and I just put it in there, right? I imported the two, right, any components, and then I put it there. Now I did the same thing with the to-do list. I took all of the to-do list, the whole to-do list, and I smacked it in here. I put it right in here, to-do list, and it had both to-do items, all the HTML, and then I did the export. I went to app and I put the placeholder and I was like, look, it works. Like I got the thing working. And then I said, all right, let me pass down the data to to-do list. And then to-do list, I mapped over the elements and I returned a to-do list item. Once again, I'd already gone to to-do list item and like structured it the way it should be. When I actually created this, I made sure I put a props to do because I was going to pass in something with a to do. So I already kind of set this up. And then when I went to do list, I was like, all right, loop over the thing, right? List items, that's what I passed in. Create this, give it a to do, give it a key, and then call it, right? And then in app, this then rendered the things, right? It was just easily rendered down. So nesting them and taking your content, my suggestion is when you're creating this stuff, I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to really kind of recap, just bring it to an end. But when you're creating your things, it's nice to have one thing that has a lot of stuff and then you tear that down. You know, break it down into further things. If you can't really foresee it, just create one big thing and then you break this down. And we're going to be doing a lot of this, creating components. I will assign the homework. I'll just give the homework now because I have to do that. You're going to be doing this. This is the homework, and it's called React Films. And there's a code pen here. Fork this code pen. This is going to be the code pen. Okay. And they're all in the Trello board. All right. You can't get lost. It's in the Trello board. And for React Films, you're going to follow. This is kind of like a do the thing, type it exactly kind of thing. So this should be a little bit more intuitive. I've given this out a lot, even to my day students, and they're like, it was really intuitive. I just did the thing. In the end, you're going to go through and you're going to create something that looks like this. As of right now, it is just this. It just has films and details. Okay. You're going to need to go ahead. If I open it in the editor, you're going to need to go ahead and create the thing. Here's some data. Here's an object with things. You're going to need to get at some point in time the title, the image path. You're going to have to do all this and create the components. Okay. So whatever the components are. Now, they're using class-based components here. So you're going to kind of follow suit with these class-based components. We didn't hit the class-based components, but I know you did it in the blog app. Okay, so as part of the blog app, I know you did it. So you can always reference that for now, okay? And for the homework, I think that's it. I just had some reading. Oh, yeah, there's a spreadsheet here that I'm gonna have you on this homework tab. Put a link to your forked films app so we can take a look at it. If you need help, we can always reach out and try to help you out. Okay. Awesome. Any last minute questions? I try not to go over time, but 2 hours sometimes it just really presses me to like teach, give you time to do it, teach, give you time to do it. So sorry if I went over today.
Do we fork it? Do we fork it and then put the link in, or do we finish it first before we put the link in?
Oh no, what I would do is fork it now and put the link in, and then as you do it, you can always reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm having issues." I'll just go to the sheets and look at it, or you could Slack me your thing.
Okay.
So it's me or Abdul. Like, you know, I'm teaching during the day, but I'm always willing to like take a look at something. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any issues. I'll gladly spend some time to try to look at it, okay? And then just the last thing, I know, right? It's like one more thing, Joe. Yeah.
Can you post the solution for that last lab?
Sure, I will. I'll post it. I'm just slacked out the exit tickets. If you could just spend, 2 minutes filling out the exit ticket, and I will Slack out the solution to the to-do app right now. Cool. I'm also going to put the to-do app solution inside the Trello board as well. So we have that there. Okay. Awesome. All right. Have a good night, and I will see you next week. All right. Enjoy your week.
Great. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right, everyone.